Are you an idiot? Well, you're in good company. There are about 8 billion idiots on this planet, and that number grows every day. Don't be the guy or gal that says, "I'm not an idiot," because that makes you the biggest idiot of all. We all have our moments of brilliance and our moments of idiocy. Embrace it, folks. Don't be ashamed. Without those idiot moments, we would never be able to appreciate our brilliance. Welcome to I Love My Idiot, a podcast about the idiots we love, the idiots we loathe, and the idiots we can't seem to avoid. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Visit our website at ilovemyidiot.com.
Welcome to another episode of I Love My Idiot.
I'm your equal host, Clyde November.
And I'm Rosie November.
And we're glad to have you with us today.
So, the last few episodes, we have been talking about the current environment in the world.
Great conversations.
Yes, great conversations, but kind of depressing. I have decided that we are no longer talking about it.
Like talking about the disease specifically, or are
just
you...
anything related to it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm over it. I'm bored. It's been played out. Every podcast I listen to is talking about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So, Clyde is obsessed. This is the problem.
It's true. I sit
obsessed.
around and read stats. I'm looking up memes. I have a meme thread going with Claudia. We're just going back and forth trying to one-up each other with the memes.
Yeah, and I'm over it. I'm just so over it. So I have decided to start a swear jar. But instead of swearing, we're not going to talk about anything having to do with the virus or anything having to do with the depressing stuff that comes along with it.
All right, so this explains why you have a big jar sitting in the center of our podcasting table.
That's right. Every time you mention it, something goes in the jar.
Okay.
I'm so freaking over it, Clyde.
I just want you to know that I have no money.
Yes, I know.
All my money is your money.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to put your money in the swear jar.
Well,
but no, Rosie, I think that's actually a really good idea because, I don't know.
It's played out.
We've had 3 great conversations about things that have, they're kind of depressing,
Yeah.
And I'm the one that edits this podcast, so then I have to re-listen to it multiple times as I'm going through our footage and, trying to figure out what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to toss and stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, it's been kind of depressing, even though there's been some funny moments,
Yeah, so, I mean, it just brings you back to reality of what's going on. But, the thing is it's so talked about and it's so in the media right now that people who are listening to our podcast is just another version of it and they don't need it, right? I mean, most of the people are going to start tuning out because they're bored. They've already heard it a million times. So I think it's a good time to kind of switch gears.
True. And you just did go on a little rant about it, so I'm going to have to ask you to put some money in the jar, Rosie.
So, spring has finally sprung. It's very exciting. We're starting to see all these daffodils coming up. Tulips are blooming. It's an exciting time. And it's beautiful outside right now.
Yeah, our yard is covered in dandelions, too. So while Rosie is excited, I was out with the weed killer earlier trying to fight off this dandelion problem.
That is true, because we do not want to be the dandelion yard again. Well, we actually lived by the king of dandelions.
Yeah, and, thanks to his lack of caring, kind of made us the secondary dandelion king. So... The sad thing is now we can't even blame that. We live across the street from a very high-class golf course that doesn't have a dandelion on it ever.
I know.
So, I got to do something about these dandelions.
And it only takes one dandelion to, destroy your entire yard.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I was feeling positive because I was out there and none of them had turned to seed yet, and I was spraying, I was picking. And then I round the corner on the side of the house, and there's one dandelion turned to seed.
There's never just one.
Oh, yeah, but this one... Half of the seeds were still intact. Half of them had blown off and were in the yard somewhere. And I'm kicking myself. I should have been out 2 days ago taking care of the problem.
I know. Well, the hard thing is that we live in your parents' old house. Your mom was like a gardening pro. Like, her yard could be in magazines. It's pretty incredible what she's done to this yard. And then the new owners before us who moved in kind of did a shitty job of taking care of the yard. So it kind of overgrew. And then in the fall, your mom came and like just totally fixed it all back up. So now I have this incredible yard I have no idea how to take care of.
My mom and dad were retired.
Yeah.
So what led them to having this incredible yard was 2 hours a day of yard work. We don't have that time as people that work. You know what I mean? So I think we're just going to have to plant some grass seed and turn this world-class garden back into a lawn.
Well, one thing that we've been doing the last few days is actually going on family walks, which has been kind of nice. Like, the kids like to ride their little scooters, and
we put little Rosie in a stroller and push her along. Oh, yeah, it's great. The exercise has been so therapeutic for me, too.
Yeah, I know, because you're really packing it on, Clyde.
I am, but not just that. I mean,
it's like going back to college with the College 15.
Yeah, the COVID 15. Oh, shoot.
You better pay up.
All right, here's an IOU. All right, there we go. What is it, a quarter?
Yeah.
Like a swear jar? You put in a quarter?
Exactly.
Okay. So I owe you 25 cents. I'm sorry. Right.
I'm just saying, Clyde's at least gained 15 pounds in the last 3 weeks.
It's true. All in my gut for some reason.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out. But, yeah, going out and getting the fresh air, getting the exercise, it's been really fun.
I know. It's nice to get out of the house, but then it's also really interesting the people that you see when you go out on walks. And because we do live by a golf course, it's a unique time for the golf course as well because the ponds aren't full of water yet because they really haven't been watering very much. I think once they start watering the grass, those ponds are going to fill back up. Well, these are like pretty dried out, and our kids have spent hours just like combing the bottom of these ponds looking for golf balls. And yesterday, little James had 15 golf balls in his like little Carter jeans.
He had these cargo pockets just filled to the brim with golf balls.
Yeah, it was so funny watching him walk around like his pants were almost falling off.
He was doing that wide-legged walk so that his pants wouldn't drop. It was hilarious.
Oh my gosh. So now they've started a collection of golf balls.
Oh, yeah.
And their hopes and dreams are that they're going to sell these golf balls at some point and make money. I don't know if it'll work, but...
Yeah. Well, it actually brought me a lot of joy seeing them do that because that's what I used to do when I was a kid. My sister and I, we'd go out, we'd comb the golf course. We'd come home with hundreds of golf balls, and then we'd clean them, and then we'd sell them. So the kids have been asking me for all this advice, like how much do we sell them for? How clean do they have to be? And stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, this is a different time. Mm-hmm. Like when I was a kid, we'd go sell the golf balls. I'm not even sure my parents knew where we were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for all they knew, we were in the backyard or the front yard or whatever, you know?
I also never see golfers stopping like by our house. So I'm not sure that it's going to be a great, money maker for the kids. And also golf balls are so freaking cheap now that it's pretty easy to have a whole bunch of golf balls. And I doubt the golfers really need these like beat up, pond soaked golf balls.
You might be surprised. See, here's the thing. When I was a kid and I was selling these, we live right across from the 8th hole, which means they've already golfed 7 holes and they've already lost several balls in the ponds that we're going to pick up the next day or whatever. There are a lot of golfers that are like disappointed that they've lost so many balls, and then they just come up and they're like, oh, we're just going to replenish. Now, I don't know if times have changed, with the economy or whatever. I don't know whether golfers are still going to buy, but, I think if the kids set their price right,
sure.
It's a lesson in business, And,
I mean, they may want to diversify their product and actually do maybe lemonade at the same time,
Oh, sure.
A drink and a ball. I don't know.
And me and my sister did that too. In fact, when I was first starting in the golf ball selling business, I was about 6 years old, and I barely remember this. But my sister and I, we ran out of lemonade, and she decided she was going to ride her bike to the gas station and left me in charge of the golf ball stand. I'm 6 years old, sitting there by myself. Once she leaves, and rides her bike down the road to where I can't see her anymore. All of a sudden, I hear like an ambulance siren.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
And so I am just sitting there guarding our golf balls, terrified that my sister has had like a crash. You know, when you're a kid, you automatically assume the worst.
It's always the worst.
Oh, yeah. So when she came back, I was like crying. I was like,
my
thank
gosh.
goodness, Chloe, you're alive. And she's like, oh, I see you sold some golf balls. And then it turns out I sold them for the wrong price. So she yelled at me and I was like, hey,
man.
I'm just happy you're alive. But that's one of my strongest memories of selling golf balls, honestly. Like, we did it for 5 or 6 years. I have very few memories that stand out, but thinking she was dead was one of them.
Yeah, this sounds really traumatic.
Oh, yeah, it was. Even though it only lasted for about 7 minutes. That was like the longest 7 minutes of my life.
I bet. So the walks that we take, I mean, you've been living in this town your entire life. Does it seem smaller now that you're bigger? Like the walk to the elementary school. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like that is like not that far of a walk. But I bet as a small child, it probably felt like forever.
Well, the walk to the elementary school always took me forever because of the boy I would walk with. Him and I, we were these two ADD kids, and we'd just start spacing out. We'd have adventures on the walk to school. There were several times that we realized, like, oh, shoot, school started like 20 minutes ago or whatever, you know? So I could
definitely see that with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-minute walk from our house to the school, but looking back on it, I'm pretty sure there were times where it took like 30 minutes as a child. And I'm not sure if that was just because we were spacey, goofing off, or small legs. I'm not really sure, but I guess it does seem a little smaller now.
What about our house? Does our house seem smaller to you?
I don't know. Sometimes I forget that this is the house I grew up in.
It does look different.
Yeah, so many things are different. Sometimes I forget about that.
I didn't ever see this house as a small person, so I've only ever known the house as an adult. I mean, it's a nice house, but I can't imagine growing up here. I don't know. I'm always curious about what you think. You know what I mean? Like the fact that it's where you grew up. And I know when I visit like my mom's trailer, she actually lives in a bigger trailer now than what I grew up in. And when I go into her trailer, I'm like, this is so small. Like it feels so small to me.
As a 6'2" male, I notice, trust me.
And, but as a kid, it seems so big, right? Like, I still remember when we upgraded from the single wide to the double wide trailer and like how much bigger it seemed and just amazing. Yeah, it's just really interesting now going back and seeing trailer houses. They just seem so small to me now. From a kid's point of view, everything seems bigger than it is. You know?
Yeah, and there's certain things like that little closet under the stairs. That used to be our prime hiding spot for hide and seek. You know what I mean? And we could never do it with our own siblings because everyone knew that spot. But if you had friends or guests or cousins over, that was like the best spot. We'd hide behind the suitcases back there. But now I'm like, how did I ever fit back here?
Yeah.
Like, it is tiny, you know? So there's little things like that. But yeah, I don't know. You have to remember that my early childhood looked so much different because, I mean, really, my dad started fixing up the house. But for most of my childhood, everything in here was like 70s print.
Yeah.
Right? We had these gold 70s curtains on the front windows, you know? We had this gold carpet that matched it. So do I. But one year I was in a play. I played a wise man for Jesus's birth. And I was like, Mom, I need like fancy clothes. And my mom turned the gold curtains into like a fancy cloak for me as a wise man.
Nice.
She's like, it seems like a wise man would wear a gold cloak made out of gold curtains. I was like, yeah, sure. And it did make a great costume, you know, but we had gold carpet that matched it. We had linoleum floors with totally 70s print. Everything in this house was outdated even before the 80s was done, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was like my dad's big project throughout, I would say about the mid 90s. He decided it was time to start updating. And, you know, a lot of times some of the updates they did were after I moved out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it just doesn't even feel like the same place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But when we go out for walks, that's when it really hits me that this is the place of my childhood.
Yeah.
Right?
They just turned the water on this week in the golf course and started mowing. And it's incredible the smells that come up from just watering that grass and like cutting the grass. It really does have its own aroma around this neighborhood.
They use what's called like gray water, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with gray water, but that's like water from the drain or something that's like a mix of like clean water with sewage water or something. So it has a particular smell. I don't know. I think that might be how they like fertilize the grass or something. I don't know. To me, it just smells like my childhood.
Yeah.
It's the smells of my childhood. Totally.
And it's cool because as we're walking around the neighborhood, you know all the shortcuts. It's like, you know, here's a walking path that will take us to this neighborhood. And you just know your way around all of these, you know, side streets and little walking paths that from the naked eye you wouldn't even see unless you lived here for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
all these shortcuts are the only reason I was never kidnapped as a child. Right? Like in the 90s, they started...
That's the only reason, Clyde, because there were just a ton of kidnappers just waiting to nap
Seriously, it was dangerous, I'm telling you. In the 90s, they started really pushing...
How many kids from your neighborhood got kidnapped?
Plenty, all right? I don't know their names, but...
None. It was zero.
No,
it was
no.
zero.
Okay, so in the 90s, they started coming to our school. Every year, we'd have an assembly with a police officer. They would tell us...
I was a latchkey kid. Like, nobody was kidnapping kids.
You know, this was a prime neighborhood, right? I mean, if you're going to kidnap a kid, you want them to be like mid to upper class, all right?
Oh my gosh.
So you can get your ransom money. But so these cops, they would freak us out in these assemblies, right? Get way too graphic. Like, if you get kidnapped, here's what's going to happen to you.
Oh my gosh.
Type of thing, right? Yeah. So we were just terrified constantly. And every time I would walk home from school, we always had to walk in like these big packs of kids because we were so terrified. And I always felt sorry for the kid that lived the furthest away because that meant at some point he was going to have to do that last stretch by himself. But there were times where I was walking by myself and every time a car would come, oh man, it was scary.
Yeah.
I would like way overreact. And I'm willing to admit that it was usually an overreaction. However, there were,
gosh.
I would say 4 to 12 times in my life when a car actually acted very suspicious.
It was probably somebody in your parents' church, like watching over you.
No.
Making sure you got home safe.
I had every
Oh my
car
gosh, Clyde.
memorized from the church parking lot.
Oh
Trust
my
me.
gosh, you're such an overreactor.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm lucky to be alive. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh my gosh, Clyde, seriously.
And okay, we never had a kid who was kidnapped. But every single kid from my school had like 5 or 6 stories.
Dude,
5 or 6
I
close
think,
calls.
You know, I'm not sure if that was like a thing around here. I didn't grow up in this state, so I don't know. And I was, like I said, a latchkey kid, grew up in a very poor neighborhood. Like, people weren't napping kids from my neighborhood unless it was like a grandma that takes a kid and is like, this kid is mine now. Which in most cases, I think kidnappings are like a relative who claims ownership over a kid.
Yeah, I would say like 90%.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff happened in my neighborhood, but it was very much, I don't know, like parents were working, you just went home, like we weren't thinking about kidnapping. We were just thinking about, will we eat today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas in your neighborhood, and in fact, not just this neighborhood, like we were talking to one of your coworkers from the last school that you worked at, and she's got story after story about times where she swears she was almost kidnapped. Every person that you introduced me to has these stories. So I just think these safe school officers around here were like on their game. Like, are they still doing that in school where they're like having whole assemblies about this and just scaring children?
I don't know. And here's the thing. All of those terrified children are now grown-ups.
Yeah.
So I don't think police have to come to the schools. Because now those terrified children
Yeah.
are teaching their kids about how scary the world is.
I know. It's funny watching you with our kids because you're like, you can't do that. Like, somebody could steal you. Don't go out to the front yard and check the mail. Like, that's mommy and daddy's job, stuff like that. So you're probably right. I mean,
I got to be
really
protective of them. No, it's like seriously my nightmare that, something happens to our children.
Horrible.
I did hear a fabulous story about a kid who was kidnapped by a random stranger, and he sat in the back seat of the car singing church songs at the top of his lungs. And the guy got so annoyed, kept yelling at the kid to shut up. The kid wouldn't shut up, so the guy finally pulled over, opened the door, and said, "Get out."
Wow.
Dropped the kid off like 20 miles away from where he picked him up at, And if I remember correctly,
story?
yes, it's a real story.
From this town?
No, not from this town. I think it happened down south somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
So I've actually coached my kids on what to do in the event that they get picked up. They just have to be as annoying as possible.
Well, that'll be easy for our kids.
Yes, very much so. Because every time we're in the car with them and they don't have their DVD players, they are driving me up the wall.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I've never known anybody who got kidnapped or, I don't know, you hear about it in the news and stuff. I don't know. Freaks me out. I don't like to think about it.
Yeah.
It mostly freaks me out because you are now the safe school officer in our house and you have so many things. You're like, this will happen. I'm like, whoa. And there's times where you feel like I've been kidnapped. Like if I'm a couple hours too late getting home from work, you're like texting me or calling me like crazy. Are you okay? What's going on? And then I'll get home and you'll be like, I'm so glad you're here. I was so worried about you.
Here's the thing. I have no problem with you going, hanging out with friends and stuff like that. But I need like timelines. You know what I mean? In fact, around Christmas time, something really scary did happen. Because I'm sitting there doing my normal Google searches, and you know how sometimes it like opens a wormhole where somehow you're clicking on something that you don't even know how you got there. Well, I find out that the night before someone got kidnapped, right? A woman about your age showed a picture of what she looked like. She looked similar to you.
Is it still called kidnapped or was it abducted?
I'm not an expert on stuff like that, right? Sorry. She was abducted.
Gosh.
She was not a kid. She was, I guess I could call her a kid. She was 27, right?
Okay.
That's a kid in my eyes. But you were out to dinner with Marissa, and I start texting you once it's like an hour past the time you said you were going to come home. I'm like, hey, you okay? I'm like, hello? 2 hours later, you finally get back to me. At this point, I'm like loading the kids in the car because I'm like, we got to go find mommy. We got to find this guy that kidnapped
oh my gosh.
mommy and this other girl, right?
Don't worry, babe. I'll just sing church songs at the top of
go.
my lungs.
Yeah,
and
but
it will
you
be
have
all
a
right.
beautiful voice.
Oh my
The person's going to love you.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Right?
this really got off topic.
I know. Anyways, do not kidnap people.
No.
It's bad
And
practice.
be safe out there.
I know. Teach
it
your
happens.
kids.
It's
Teach your
scary.
kids.
Yeah, so we're going on these walks. I have discovered that there are very interesting people in our neighborhood. People that I would actually really like to get to know. Like this morning, I was walking behind a guy with his dog, and his dog was like peeing every 5 seconds,
Every
like dogs
bush.
do.
He's got to mark every yard.
Yeah, and the guy was like highly embarrassed of his dog. I'm like, it's a dog. Like, that's what dogs do. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He just wants to pee all everywhere. And I was like, yeah, it's not my yard. Like, I don't care.
You're like, yeah, just don't walk down that street
And then
over
I was
there.
thinking, like, you're the only person who cares about how much your dog is peeing on other people's yards, other than maybe the people who own that yard. But yeah, it's just really funny. And then you see the people who are like joggers, and they'll like jog past us, but then we eventually catch up to them.
Yeah, those are faux joggers.
I'm like, how is it possible that you've been jogging this whole time, yet we're like pacing to catch up with you, and we're walking like pushing a stroller, got a couple of kids on scooters. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, we're going at our own pace, yet somehow we're catching up to someone jogging. That doesn't seem right.
Have you noticed anything interesting on our walks?
Well, I have, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it right now.
What?
Well, because of the COVID-19. Sorry,
Yeah.
here's the second quarter in the
Exactly.
jar. Oh, dang it. But you come walking and people like cross the street to get away from you, right?
Yeah. It's like everybody has germs.
And here's the thing. I've yet to have to cross the street because they see that we got the stroller and everything.
I know.
So they're like, oh, they're not moving.
Let me move out of your way.
Those jerks aren't moving. But yeah, that's like the big thing I've noticed so far. So sorry, now I owe you 50 cents.
Do you want to know what my biggest fear is of walking in our neighborhood?
What's that?
I fear this every time I go for a walk.
Dogs?
No.
Bears?
No.
Cougars?
I don't think any of those things are in this
No,
town.
I've seen lots of cougars.
What?
Yeah.
In
like
this
50-year-old
town?
women walking around looking for men.
Oh my gosh, Clyde, you're such an idiot.
Okay, what's the biggest fear?
I am actually afraid that somebody's going to hit me with a golf ball.
Yeah. Okay, that actually has happened.
Has that happened to you or somebody you knew?
No. People I've known have been hit with golf balls.
Oh my gosh. I bet it would really hurt.
Oh, yeah.
I once heard a story that happened in this golf course where somebody hit a golf ball, it hit a duck, and they died.
Really?
Yeah.
Here in this golf course?
Here in this golf course.
Wow. You know, the duck pond used to have a very possessive goose when I was a kid.
Really?
Yes. And when I was a kid, that goose was the biggest fear. It was one of those big old like white geese, right? And so we always had this pond full of ducks and it was real fun and charming. And you'd go down and you'd feed the ducks and stuff like that. And then one year, this goose randomly showed up, this big old honking goose. And this goose was mean. And so you'd go down with breadcrumbs to feed the ducks. And like, if the ducks started to go towards you, the goose would like attack the ducks.
Oh my gosh.
And he'd rip feathers out and everything.
Wow.
And so this duck pond that was really clean, suddenly there were like duck feathers everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Goose. But the funny thing is then they became like a pack animal where these ducks started following the goose. And it's like once the goose was full, you know, then he'd let the ducks eat or whatever. And they were like his little minions. But yeah, this goose was terrifying. And there were times, I think at some point I was more terrified of the goose than I was like child molesters and stuff. Right?
Seriously, okay. I swear I should have a swear jar for every time you bring up a topic that's terrifying.
I'm sorry. We were just talking about kidnappers.
And I didn't like it. I hate talking about stuff like this. I like to live in my perfect little world where bad stuff doesn't happen.
I know. And normally I try my best to shield you from this, right? But seriously,
this has already become like murder mystery Clyde and Rosie, and I hate it.
All right, back to the goose, though. This goose would hiss at you. Like, have you ever heard a goose hiss?
Yes.
I didn't know geese hissed until this moment. The moment when I was walking home, and all of a sudden I hear this hiss. I look over. The goose spreads its wings out wide and starts flapping them as it's running at me full speed. Apparently, I was like in its territory, and I just start running. I dropped the backpack on accident, but I don't know if it was an accident. I think it was instinct because there's no way I was going to outrun this goose holding a backpack. So I dropped the backpack. I am running for my life.
Oh my
This
gosh.
goose is following me and catching up to me, right? It's like right on my tail. And then, thank goodness, a car comes around, stops. The guy gets out and is yelling at the goose. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you just saved me. And he's like, I know. Get him the car, kid.
My
just kidding. I made up that last part.
Seriously.
I'm sorry, Rosie. I couldn't help it. So that goose was terrifying. But fortunately, the goose, something happened to him. I want to say about the year 2002. He picked on one too many kids and must have picked on the wrong kid at some point.
Really?
Because there were tons of kids that were always talking about, like, we're going to go after that goose one day. But no one really had the courage to actually do it, you know?
Uh-huh.
But kids would, you know, talk big or whatever. But anyways.
And then the goose just went up missing one day?
Yep.
Wow.
We put up flyers and everything.
So when I was a kid, my mom worked in a factory, and this factory just happened to be on the river. She found a little goose egg, and it was like in the fall when it was starting to get cold out. And so she brought the egg home, and we like put a light on it, and we had like this little incubator box, and a goose actually hatched.
No way.
Yeah.
Nice.
Out of this egg. And it was a really cool experience because it was like a Canadian goose, you know.
Oh, really?
And he hatched, and then we had to get like special food and stuff from the vet. And eventually we raised it until it was old enough, and then my mom took it back to work and like returned it to like...
Just put it in the river and...
Well, there were a bunch of geese. Like after the winter was over, the geese came back. So we probably had the goose for several months, and then he got bigger and bigger, and then we took him back and like put him with all the other geese. And my mom said that she still at lunchtime she'd go out and like feed the goose and like see the goose, and he lived. I mean, he like learned to live with the geese.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
What's really amazing is that goose never got eaten. Knowing your dad's history, right?
I know. I think my dad knew with that goose that my mom was going to like put her heels in, because
that one was protected.
Yeah, I mean, she was the one that really put in the work to kind of raise it up, you know. And I always wondered why we didn't just keep the goose, you know. But for whatever reason, she wanted it to be set free with all the other geese. And I guess it migrated and everything. Like it became a part of the pack of geese, and they accepted it as one of its own. And yeah, it was a cool experience.
That is cool.
But yesterday, Rex was in the pond, and he actually got terrified of like a little killdeer.
Killdeer, yeah. Tiny little bird.
Yeah, but it was like really mad at him, and it was like, rah, I was like yelling at him.
Yeah, it was like barking at him. It was really crazy.
So I'm almost wondering if there's like maybe a nest in there that it's protecting.
I think there is, and here's the thing about killdeer. A lot of people might not know what we're talking about if they don't live in our region, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a killdeer, it's this tiny little bird, and they don't build their nests in a tree like normal birds. They build them on the ground. So when a predator comes near, what they'll do is they'll pretend like their arm is broken to try to draw the predator toward them, and then they'll fly away, but they'll just fly like 10 feet and then pretend like it's broken again.
Oh, to like get it away from
and they're like trying to lure the predator where they want the predator to go so that it stays away from the nest, right? But the first time I had ever heard about killdeer, I was this tiny kid. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, maybe first, second grade. I don't know. My dad tells me, hey, let's go for a walk. Speaking of walks, right? He's like, let's go for a walk. There's a killdeer in the neighborhood. Well, I'm this little kid, and my vocabulary is not real strong. So I hear two different words. I don't hear one word, killdeer. I hear two words.
You're like, where's the dead deer?
Yeah,
I want to see this thing.
I hear the word kill, and I hear the word deer. And I know what kill means. Kill means something's dead. Deer means an animal with 4 legs that like prances, right?
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, really? We have one? And my dad's like, right here in the neighborhood.
Did you have that like feeling of like fear, but also excitement, but also like maybe I don't want to see it, but yes, I do want to see it? Absolutely
not. It was 100%. I want to see this thing, right?
Dude, you were such a weird kid.
I know. Well, dude, I was a little boy. That's every boy's going to be excited about this, right?
Oh my gosh.
So it's one of those things. My dad's like, there's a killdeer in there, and I'm like already jumping into my shoes, like, let's go get this thing, right? My sister's like, do I have to come? And he's like, yes. So we're walking there, and maybe she knew what a killdeer was, which was why she was all hesitant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're walking, and then we get to this little spot where, you know how some people get rid of their grass because they're too lazy to mow, and they replace it with rocks? Well, there was this yard that had all these river rocks in it.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad suddenly like says, there it is. And I'm sitting there looking around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hear this bird chirping, but I'm just looking for the dead deer. And I'm like, where? I'm like, where's the killdeer? My dad's like, right there. I'm like, what? Behind the bird? He's like, it's the bird. And then he's like, look at the way it's faking like its wing is broken. It's trying to draw us near.
And then he gives you the look that you always give little Rex of like, you're such a freaking idiot.
I know. He's like going off on this science lesson, and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Like, okay, can we get past the bird so we can get to the dead deer already?
Yeah, well, the thing that's hilarious is you gave our kids the exact science lesson when we saw the killdeer 2 days ago.
I retain information well.
Oh my gosh.
My dad would be so proud, right?
It just makes me wonder all of the useless information that you just have rolling around in your head.
90% of it came from my dad because everything was a science lesson with my dad. And here's the thing. We all kind of grow up to be our parents, whether we like it or not, you know?
Yeah.
This is the thing that I think I adopt the most. And I don't even realize I'm doing it until you call me out.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you're such a freaking dork.
I mean, we mentioned it the other day. We're driving through a canyon and I'm sitting there talking about sediment levels and stuff like that, right? And now we're on a walk and I'm like, look at the way the killdeer pretends to have the broken arm or whatever, you know? But that's just kind of the upbringing I had, you know? Because of it, I was always really annoyed, but my dad eventually became my scoutmaster. And so if you think about it, he was the perfect scoutmaster because he's this guy that has all this knowledge about the outdoors and he just loves to share the knowledge.
But you know what? He's not so smart because when you guys took me hiking, he also swore there weren't snakes.
Well, that was based off of a lot of experience,
and there were
Rosie.
2 snakes in one hike.
Yeah, you were the first out of like 70 people I know who have been to this camp spot. You're the first to ever see snakes. But when my dad was taking us on these nature hikes for the scouts, he would just be full of so much information and all my peers, all the scouts would just be like soaking it in like, oh, Mr. November knows so much. And I'd be sitting there just annoyed. I'd be like, holy cow, like, can we just hike and have fun? But I think part of that was that was everything in my life. Like everything was always this science lesson and stuff. And it eventually became a thing that we began to mock as siblings, right? He would be teaching us stuff and then we would make weird sounds at him. We'd be like, oh, interesting. And we'd say it just like that.
Dude, you guys are the worst.
I know. Eventually he started to catch on and then he stopped telling us cool shit.
Oh my gosh. My upbringing was so different. I don't know. Like my mom was cool in high school.
You mean cool when you were in high school or cool when she was in high school?
Both.
And either way, my parents were neither.
Both. And my mom, like, man, she was like super street smart too, which I think really helped us learn how to be just smart. Not necessarily knowing, like, you know, what a killdeer does when it's protecting its nest.
You mean she gave you useful information?
But, like, you know, how to dodge a crackhead smart. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. She gave you survival skills.
Yeah, she gave us survival skills. Like, she taught us how to cook mystery meat. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, But, man, she was so cool. Like, my mom in her, like, full leather outfit. I still remember when I was, like, 5 years old, my mom was going to go out, and she was going to go see the Chippendales. Are those guys still around? I don't know. They're, like, guys who get, like, half naked and dance for women.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Chippendales.
Anyways, they were
sure
around in the 80s.
Well, not now, thanks to COVID-19.
And my mom, like, went and saw them, and she was dressed in this Playboy outfit, even had the, like, little Playboy bunny. She was, like, all leather, like a leather mini skirt, and I was like, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen.
You're like, my mom is hot.
And I remember thinking, like, someday I'm going to wear that exact outfit. I can't even imagine putting that outfit on now because you would be like, go change. Like, you look ridiculous. Like, you are
Not if you were going to the Chippendales with, like, some friends. I'd totally be into it.
You're, like, very critical of what I wear, and leather is one of the things that you don't allow.
Leather and
mesh. Which were, like, staples of my mom's outfits. Dude, I love her so much. Mom, I love you.
I have a funny story about your mom wearing something, and she might come down on me hard later for telling this, but when your nephew, your sister Christine's son, was born, they were going to do this blessing in this church, right?
Yeah. You were the one who was going to do it.
That's right. I got to say the prayer, people.
I know.
I'm a holy man.
He's a holy man.
So we go to this church, and we're there early since I was going to be the one to bless him. You know,
you had to get permission from the pastor.
Yeah, I had to, you know, he had to interview me real quick. He's like, so you believe in God? And I was like, who? I'm like, oh, yeah, him. Yeah, we go way back. anyways, all the family starts showing up or whatever. And then I see your mom, and I see her from a long distance, but she's wearing this black striped dress. Mm-hmm. The stripes, it was like a black stripe, and then there was a skin-toned stripe. And these were vertical stripes that went up and down her thing, right?
Yes.
And so I like saw her from a distance, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're in a church right now. She's got like a nightie on, like a sexy nightie. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, should I like tell Amanda to like go give my suit jacket to her or what? Right? So once I got up closer to her, I realized it was skin-toned fabric.
Yes.
But from afar,
she wasn't naked, people.
I thought it was like some kind of thin mesh where you could see the skin beneath it all or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm like stuttering just talking about it.
I know.
It was such a traumatic experience.
Such a sight.
But, so there you go, Mom. Now she's going to be mad at me the next time.
Now she's going to be like, dude, I can never wear that dress again now that you think I look naked under it. I don't know. My mom always, the thing about my mom is she beats to her own drum. You know what I mean? Like, she has never, ever been a person that let anything bother her like that. You know what I mean? Like, she's always had her own style. She's confident in her appearance. I don't know. I always aspired to be like her, right? Like, who leaves their house wearing something where they look naked under it? My mom does that, and she does it with freaking stride, like, and she owns it. She's like, this is what I'm wearing. You know what I mean? Like, her boyfriend wore the most ridiculous outfit I've ever seen to our wedding, and she didn't once be like, dude, maybe you shouldn't wear that. She was like, cool, you be you. You know what I mean?
You're rocking that like a champ. Way to go.
Exactly. Like, she's always been that person, and I just fail in that department because I think a million times about what I'm wearing every day. I'm like, does this look okay? And I never feel confident in my appearance, even though you think I'm a very attractive woman.
Oh, you're sexy. You are hot.
And I'm pretty sure I'm in like Joel's top 5.
Joel Nert.
Yeah. But I don't see it in myself. And when you guys say it, I'm like, really? Because I feel like I'm not good enough ever.
Yeah, and that's really what you want in a woman. You want someone who's smoking hot but has a low self-esteem.
I just wish I had my mom's like self-esteem, you know what I mean?
Confidence.
Like, and her confidence. She is just incredible in that way.
So you just kind of grazed over one of my all-time favorite stories.
All right.
And I think we need to go back and revisit that.
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
Yes. This is the story about the outfit that your mom's boyfriend wore to our wedding.
Yeah.
Everyone from your family comes into town the night before our wedding. We put them up in a nice hotel, and we drive down to meet them. We're hanging out with them in the hotel. You're busy talking to your mom and Christine, and somehow I get stuck in the corner talking to her boyfriend, who's now her ex-boyfriend. But, he was a little bit of an odd duck, but
yeah,
I'm sitting there trying to be, social and decent. Anyways, so he's sitting there. First thing he tells me, which I thought was kind of odd, he said, "Hey, I passed the church you guys are getting married at." And I was like, "Oh, you did?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm thinking like, wow, you would really have to go really far out of your way. But I'm like, maybe they wanted to see where the church was first, so they went out of their way. And, and then he's like, "Yeah, it's just right around the corner there, right?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, it's like 15 miles from here.
Dude, he just saw a church.
Yeah.
And he's like, that must be the church. That's the one.
Because when you grow up in a small town, there's one church, right?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is a big city. We have a church on every other corner. Like, seriously. So
I know.
That was the first thing.
And we're not even Catholic. Like, I don't know why you thought that was our church.
I was like, that was more of a cathedral than a church. I don't know. So then he says, "Hey, I was thinking about my outfit for tomorrow."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay." And he pulls out these 2 shirts.
Right.
They're both at best like casual
Sure.
dress, right?
Like maybe a Saturday afternoon
Like
shirt,
a polo.
you know?
Yeah.
You're going to wear this to go see the movies.
Fancier than a Saturday afternoon. This is a Saturday night, right?
Okay,
like I'm going on a date night.
Sure.
I don't want to dress fancy, but I'm going to slap on
like
a polo.
instead of Taco Bell, we're eating at, a Mexican
Applebee's.
restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, so he holds up these 2 shirts. He's like, so which one of these should I wear? And I'm looking at both shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Shirt A is, a polo. Shirt B is a flannel, right? And I'm looking at this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, either one's fine. And he's like, you sure you want to pick one? And I'm like, no. I was like, either one of these selections is good. Just wear whichever one you're feeling tomorrow. And he's like, good deal. He's like, I like you. I'm like, all right, cool. Anyways, so the next day, we're at our wedding and people start showing up. And finally, here comes your mom and her ex-boyfriend.
Yes.
And he is not wearing one of the 2 shirts that I approved. I was like, what the heck is he wearing? And at first I thought it was like an overcoat, but then when he got closer, I realized, no, this is his shirt.
Yeah, this is what he's wearing.
So let me try to describe and understand that there are some things in the world that are just undescribable, but I'm going to try. Okay. You remember in the 80s when people had those jeans that were black, but they, like, if you really looked up close, there were like parts of white, like almost like acid wash jeans.
Acid wash.
Right. Yeah.
Black, gray, and white shades.
It was just like this mix of shades of different white and gray and black and stuff. Right. So he's wearing that material. It's a shirt.
It's a long sleeve shirt.
It's a long sleeve shirt, buttoned all the way up. However, it was not conventional where it had buttons that went down the middle. Instead, it was a flap that you buttoned up, just like what a chef would wear, except not white. It was acid wash black. And I was like, what the hell is this guy wearing? I'm like, this is not cool. So I finally, at some point, and I'm like, Rosie, I'm like, you gotta say something to your mom. She's like, I can't say something to my mom. Like, what are you supposed to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then I'm thinking like, well, good thing it's just a boyfriend, so he won't be in any of our wedding photos.
He's in every freaking photo.
Because as soon as it was like, all right, let's bring in the families.
Yeah.
Your mom was like, hey, get over here. He's like putting the cake down, coming over. We're like, no one said dive into the cake yet, sir.
Is there any chance you can stand like on the end where we can cut you out later? Oh my god!
But no, he was always like
he's
front
always
and center.
like right by the bride.
Yeah, no, it was right next to me because he thought him and I were bros. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna stand next to Clyde, and he kept like leaning on me. I'm like, dude. I'm like, you're getting that smell on me. I don't think that thing's been washed in a while. Yeah.
Well, and he smelled like pot, and they were drinking in the parking lot and smoking pot. It was a really interesting day.
Yeah.
Around all these people who, don't even know what pot smells like.
Yes.
And then they're like, oh, I think a skunk might be around here. Like, we're just not sure.
Well,
yeah, he took full advantage of Colorado. Like, he was very pleased to be in this state.
Yes.
Because even before it was legal, it was around. You know what I mean?
I don't even think half the time he knew where he was. That's how baked he seemed.
Yeah, he's a character, man. Oh, I was really happy when she moved on from him.
Yeah.
It was the longest 5 years of my life just waiting for him to find his path somewhere else. And the other interesting thing is both your mom and my mom asked me what they should wear to the wedding. Like, what color should we wear? I had one request. Do not wear black.
Sure, because
I've always
black is for funerals.
Yeah, I've always thought of black as like a sad color. It's like if you wear black, somebody's dead.
Sure.
And
if I remember correctly, you told my mom, well, our wedding colors are going to be blue and orange. So Go Broncos.
Exactly.
So if you want to wear colors that match with everything, you could wear either blue or orange.
Right. My mom shows up wearing black. Thankfully, it was a black under material and a black mesh on top, which is your favorite.
Oh, yeah. The mesh will forever be immortalized in our wedding photos, along with that chef shirt.
And then your mom comes strolling in, and she's also wearing black. And I'm like, is it because I'm pregnant? Like, why is everybody sad?
Yeah.
And so then I tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, I said not to wear black. This is the one thing I've asked of you. I never ask anything of you ever. And she was like, this is the prettiest dress I have. Anyways, and then your mom was like, there's some blue. And then she shows me like this tiny like blue ribbon that's around her waist. And
she's
I'm
like, it's the only thing with blue I had.
I'm like, you could have wore any color. Like, why are we all dressed like we're going to a funeral? I have no idea.
Again, I think it's because you were pregnant.
Yeah.
Right? It was the type of wedding where Rosie's walking down the aisle and people are whispering, should she be wearing white?
Exactly. And it wasn't white. It was like a cream. Because I wasn't worthy of white. In fact, I haven't been worthy of white since I was like 18 years old.
Next to all the black that was in the audience, it looked white, okay? So they were doing you a favor.
If you just took the bride and groom out of our wedding, it would have been a funeral. Like, that's what it would have looked like. All the sadness, all the like weirdness.
Then we asked Seamus to be the usher.
The usher, yeah.
Right? His job is to bring people in and seat them on either the bride's side or the groom's side.
Yeah.
But the awkward thing is you had maybe 15 people that came into town. And maybe not even that many.
I think there were maybe 8 people max.
Yeah.
And they all strolled in one freaking Toyota RAV4.
That only seats 5, but somehow there were 8.
And they had like, do you remember that they had a Tupperware, like one of those big Tupperwares strapped to the top of their car with like ropes and stuff, and that was where they kept all of their things.
Yes.
Was in this like Tupperware on top of the vehicle. I do remember that
because I was the one that had to bring that into the hotel room and it was covered in bugs. I was like, what the... Like, isn't
They're
there
like,
trunk
but none
space?
of our stuff got wet. You know, there was no trunk space because they had people like lapped up. It was a freaking 6-hour drive. Like, I do not know how they made it here under those conditions. Like, I can't even imagine what that 6 hours must have been like.
It was horrible, especially for Seamus, who was jammed in the trunk.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Oh my gosh. And had you known Seamus was going to become your best friend, do you think you would have made him something other than an usher at our wedding?
I would have liked to have had my best man and then like 3 or 4 groomsmen. But Rosie was only having 2 of her friends that committed to coming into town, if I remember correctly. Yep. So she was like, we can only have 2. So, you know, I had my brother, Clyde, who was going to be my best man. And that meant I had 1 other spot. And here's what's awkward. When you have a group of friends that you all you think of them all as equal friends.
Yeah.
But only 1 spot to fill, you know?
Yeah.
It's like feelings are going to be hurt. It's awkward.
Sure.
So Rosie actually mentions to me, hey, you should have my brother Seamus be one of your groomsmen. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have space for that. I'm already offending a couple people. So he got stuck with the usher position, and we have since talked in length, Seamus and I, about how the usher position is the position of, hey, we want you to feel important, so we're going to give you this job. We're going to call it an usher so we can write it in the program. But really, we just need you to stay out of the way. And, you know, so...
Poor Seamus.
Poor Seamus, but he actually has told me that had I asked him to be a groomsman, he would have felt weird about it because at the time we didn't know each other. We'd met each other once or twice before, you know.
I know.
I'm socially awkward. Seamus is socially awkward, you know. So the first few times we met, it wasn't like we necessarily hit it off right away. I would say at about year 2, I started to realize I think Seamus is the coolest man I've ever met in my life.
I know. And then when you gave the speech at his wedding, you had a lot of dust in your eyes.
I had more than dust in my eyes.
It was like the most
It was
emotional,
dripping down my chin.
Yeah, speech I've ever seen a person give to another person. It was as if you were wishing Seamus was marrying you instead. Yeah, just the transformation in my mom alone has been incredible to watch, you know. Watching her go from being this young person wearing, you know, leathers and Playboy outfits to the grandma that she is now, and just full transformation. I mean, it's like watching a whole series. You know what I mean?
You're watching the arc of a character.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly. Like the things that she worries about now are like, you know, what vitamins should she be taking? And I'm like, dude, I remember when the only vitamin you took was like beer in the morning to get over the hangover from last night.
When you think about it, at what point do you go from being like the cool party mom to being the grandma? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
in fact, when I got pregnant, my mom cried because it was the first grandkid that she was going to have. And just the thought of becoming a grandma was like, I'm not ready yet. You know what I mean? And I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm pregnant. Better get ready or get out. You know what I mean? And,
well, in her defense, she was in her early 40s
she was
when you got pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, she was dating that guy, you know? The chef shirt, acid washed guy.
Yeah.
Who was high at my wedding. Yeah, no, it was a different time, you know? And like so much life has happened even just in the last 12 years. Your family, on the other hand, has maintained.
Oh, yeah.
Their normalcy has
Novembers
maintained.
don't change.
Like, years from now, it'll be exactly the same as what it is, you know, now.
Yeah.
But by the time I came into your family, like, your dad was already retired. And, you know, like, your family was already sort of what it is, you know. Other than a few small things that have happened, a couple of divorces, it's been pretty consistent.
For the most part, we handle divorces with class in the November family.
They get remarried quickly.
I know, we get remarried quickly. People are still friends.
Yeah, they co-parent like civilized human beings.
They do what's best for the children, you know?
Yeah. I haven't once had seen, you know, one of your people drop off a person and be like, fuck you! That has happened in my life.
Yeah. Well, if that happens in the November family, it's internalized.
Yes.
It may,
very
that thought
deep.
Process might be going through.
Very
but
deep down.
Definitely
you know?
Don't shout it from the rolling vehicle.
Yeah. I've seen some things, Clyde.
I know you have.
I can't unsee.
You know, when you look into your eyes, you can tell you've seen some things. You've got that 1,000-yard stare that they taught us about when I was in the Army.
Oh my gosh, seriously. The things I've seen broken, and including human beings. No, I actually think that the divorce between my mom and dad was probably one of the best decisions that they ever made, because I think that they were just kind of toxic for each other, and they've since gone on to live very happy lives not together. As
a teacher, and I deal with a lot of families that go through divorces, I've had many students that go through that. What I find is a lot of times what happens is initially there's this downward spiral.
Sure.
You know, was there a downward spiral with your family?
Yeah. In fact, I think that my mom doesn't really remember like the first year after the divorce, because it was such a whirlwind of emotion, and just life got really weird for about 2 years after the divorce. It took her a long time to, I don't know, pick herself back up. She just had to process a lot, because the failure in her marriage, on their marriage rather, was on both sides. They both had failed. Like, they'd failed each other. I just think it's hard to come back from that easily. Unlike the divorces that I've seen in the November family, where it's like, it's pretty amicable. It's just like, you know, this just isn't working. And then they split and they co-parent and they, you know, do these extravagant things together. They all attend the same activities and games and like all of that. There was a lot of anger in my parents' divorce early on, but it's amazing because now they're friends. But it took them a long time to get there.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to take a couple steps backwards in order to move forwards.
Yeah.
And what's really hard on children is they don't have the perspective of life.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I imagine for you, particularly living with your mom at that time, that was a difficult time as your mom was taking those steps backwards to try to figure out what was going to be life moving forward.
And I was the oldest, so I took a lot of ownership, right? Like I took ownership in making sure that everything was taken care of. I grew up really fast, you know, it was almost like forged by fire.
And you said that your parents had failed each other.
Yeah.
Just because my parents stayed married does not mean that there was not some failure in there.
Yeah, sure. Every marriage has failure. You know?
Oh, yeah. My dad's been failing my mom since, the 90s. But...
In fact, when you and I were canoodling early on, I didn't really ever want to get married. It was not my digs. Like, I was like, listen, I'm not sure if one life partner is a thing. Like, I was not interested in getting married because I was sort of afraid of marriage, you know?
I know. When you said you weren't sure if one life partner was a thing, I, at the time, thought you just meant polygamy. Or that polyamorous crap. I was like, well, I mean, shoot, I'll try anything, Rosie.
You're such a freaking liar. You wanted to get me married and locked in from like the minute you met me. You're like, that's it. You're the one. And I was like, listen, Clyde, you got to slow your roll a little bit.
What's funny is I had 3 girlfriends before you that were all like, hey, what do you think of marriage? And I was like, yeah, I don't believe in the system known as marriage. I don't need a piece of paper telling me what I need. But the truth is, no guy is ready for marriage until he gets a girl that he's like, okay, this one's out of my league. Right? Like every one of those other girls, I was like, I think I can do better at some point. I mean, I can do better right now, but maybe if I like hit the gym, I could do better. I don't know. So I'm not going to marry these ones. But then the second I tricked you into, canoodling with me, as you call it, I was like, well, let's get married.
Yeah, you were talking about marriage like really early on in our relationship. And I was just like, are you serious? You know? But then the second we got pregnant, that's when everything changed for me. And I was like, I got to get married. Like, I want this kid to grow up in a mom and dad household, you know? And I don't know why I thought marriage would keep us together. It was a whirlwind, right? It was like 4 months from the time we started dating to the time we got pregnant. And I had known you because we were really good friends for a long time. I'd been crushing on you for over a year, but we were only really together for a very short period of time before we got pregnant.
And I specifically remember a conversation that we had shortly after you got pregnant. You had said that when you looked at my life and then you looked at your life, and you said, I went through a lot of chaos because, there was a time my dad lived in Tennessee, so far away, living with a single mom who's trying to balance boyfriends and kids and all this, you said there was just a lot of chaos there. And then you looked at my life and you said everything about your whole life was consistency.
Yeah.
And you said, I think we should get married because I want to offer our children that kind of consistency. I don't want them to have to go through the chaos and the confusion and everything. And I remember that strongly. And at that point, I was already planning, my brilliant proposal, which I don't think we need to talk about again. We should have a swear jar for the proposal, right? The moment Rosie realized her soon-to-be husband was an idiot.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I think we've done a good job of offering our kids a completely different life than anything I ever had growing up. And I actually think we've done a better job in some ways than what your childhood was. Your parents were amazing and are amazing, but I feel like that you learned a lot from them in how to raise kids, and you've done just an excellent job of being such a great, dad and role model to our kids.
Well, thank you, Rosie.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about you is just what a good father you are. And I just appreciate that you've brought so much calm to our children's lives, because had it been up to just me and what knowledge base that I had pre-Clyde, our kids would be growing up in a shitstorm, because I didn't know this life existed.
I don't know. I think that this adventure we're on called life has just been a blast, Rosie. Honestly, I do. I think, I don't know, in a lot of ways, I'm glad that our kids have you as a mom, because I don't know.
Because I'm funner than you.
Oh, yeah, you are.
And way cooler. So I have a game that I want to play with you, Clyde.
What?
I know. I've been thinking.
Are you trying to make me the happiest man in the world?
I've been thinking a lot about last week's game, In or Out of the Cage.
Which I got some feedback about that game. I mean, granted, it was only from one human, and his name was Joel Nert, but he said he loved it. And he said the next time we're together, he expects that we will play In or Out of the Cage.
I see.
It's becoming a real thing, people.
So the game that I want to play with you is In or Out of the Swift.
As in... as in, like, Taylor Swift?
Yes.
What?
Okay, so she's known for dating many, many, many people. She's been with lots of guys.
Yeah, we had a couple girls like that in high school. We called them whores.
You take that back. She is an angel. Anyways, so I'm going to give you a name of a person, and you're going to tell me if they dated Taylor Swift.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to point out that I don't know if I've ever heard a Taylor Swift song.
Yes, you have.
Name one.
You bought me that CD.
Doesn't mean I listened to it. Now, Rosie, the only problem I have with this game is I worked a really long time on the name In or Out of the Cage, and I'm proud of that name. So you taking my game name and just replacing it with the word Swift, I'm not cool with. But I did think of a name that would be better suited.
Okay, what is it? In this 2 seconds, you've thought of a better name?
Dude, it's not hard, all right?
Seriously, Clyde. Why can't I just freaking come up with a game and play a game with you?
Because the name is everything.
Judging.
The name is everything. All right.
My gosh.
The name of this game has to be Dating Her Swiftly.
Okay.
Or Dating Him Swiftly. I don't know. One of the two. All right. Let's play.
In or Out of the Swift,
Sounds
a.k.a.
dirty.
Dating Him Swiftly. Did Taylor Swift date Barack Obama?
I'm going to guess. Now, I know very little
That was an easy one.
about Taylor Swift, but I'm going to guess that's Out of the Swift.
True.
They have never... He is a faithful man.
All right. Did Joe Jonas get swiftly taken by Taylor Swift?
Joe Jonas.
He's one of the Jonas
I
brothers.
know who Joe Jonas is.
Seriously.
Dude,
You didn't even know who Taylor Swift was. How could I know if you know who Joe Jonas is?
Because when I was in my early teaching career, every girl would have a folder with the Jonas Brothers on them.
All right.
Okay.
Joe's the cute one.
No, I thought Nick was the cute one.
I don't know. I think Joe's
I don't know. I mean, in my
cute.
taste, I think. Yeah, no. One of the Jonas Brothers played Marius in Les Miserables, the 25th anniversary. So
seriously,
I'm gonna guess that that's the one she dated, which I believe was Nick. So I'm gonna say you are trying to trick me by giving me the ugly brother Out of the Swift.
Wrong.
Oh,
he was totally in the Swift. Did I ever tell you one of my early cars, my early junker cars, was a Swift?
I don't even know what a Swift is.
Oh, yeah.
That means you were in the Swift at some point.
Yeah, a Swift is a car. I don't know.
Yeah, don't ruin the momentum of the game here.
All right. Is John Mayer in or out of the Swift?
John Mayer. Now,
He sang the song Daughters, which is like one of my favorite
I'm familiar
songs.
with John Mayer. Is she the type of girl that would risk dating someone who does her thing, which would be write songs, but perhaps does it better than her? I don't think she is. I believe she's too self-conscious. I'm going to say Out of the Swift.
Wrong. He was in the Swift.
He was in the Swift. Dang it. All right. Well, okay. So I am 1 correct, 2
and it was
incorrect.
an easy one.
Why is that easy?
Because you knew she didn't date Obama. I mean, come on, be real.
Oh, that was the easy one. I thought you meant the other two. I was like, those weren't easy.
All right. Jake Gyllenhaal, in or out of the Swift?
Ooh, Jake Gyllenhaal. First Jake Gyllenhaal movie I ever saw was a movie called October Sky. Right? Have you seen that movie?
Yes. In fact, it made you cry, made me hate you as a man.
Hey. I cry every time I see that movie, okay?
Oh my gosh, seriously. Yeah, it was okay when you started, but then when your dad started crying too, I was like, get me out of this November household.
My dad is a sensitive man. He cried during Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
Although if you didn't cry during Toy Story 3, you are a monster.
All right, is he in or is he out of the Swift?
Oh man. I'm going to say out of the Swift.
No, he was in the Swift.
Dude, you can't give 3 ins in a row. I thought this one was definitely going to be out. All right. See, now the next one. Oh man, the mind game is on. I don't even know what she's gonna do next. Rosie is crazy.
Taylor Swift date Ben Affleck?
That has to be out of the Swift.
That is correct.
Yes.
As far as I know.
I'm all proud of myself because I know of Ben Affleck's history. I'm like, wait a minute, there was J-Lo, and then there was Garner, and then there was Rehab. There's no time for Swift in there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I know you don't know his name, so I'm just going to say what he was in.
Okay.
Did Taylor Swift date the werewolf from those movies about the vampires?
Oh yeah. Sorry. I'm thinking more now about like, what is that guy's name? I feel like if I could remember his name, that would be the, yeah. It's Jacob. Team Jacob.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. No, I don't remember the actor's name, but...
Okay, I'm just going to give you a clue. She dated either the vampire or the werewolf. She dated one of them.
I am pretty certain that it's the werewolf. She was definitely Team Jacob. Final answer, put it in.
That is correct.
Yeah! I don't take her for a Team Edward type,
No.
you know? Which I'm embarrassed that I know the team names.
All right, last one. Even though this list goes on and on, this is the last guess for you.
How many guys has this girl been with?
It's been a journey. Many people have ridden in the Swift. Did Taylor Swift date Harry Styles?
Ah, the Prince of England. No, I'm joking. There is a Prince of England named Harry, though, right?
Yeah.
Harry Styles, I believe, is that a One Directioner?
Yeah.
Yeah, she probably would. Ooh, Rosie just showed me a picture of him. Handsome man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a guy she would date. Has this girl ever been married, or does she just like plow through men like no other?
I know she's never been married. She likes to play the field. She's still figuring out what she likes. I don't blame her. I wish I was still playing the field sometimes.
She's a modern day feminist.
Yes. Yes. So, is he in or is he out?
No, I thought I already said it. He is in the Swift, both holes.
That is bad. Clyde, I can't believe you said that.
But am I correct? I just want you to say correct.
I can't even right now with you. Like,
I'm sorry.
You are the worst.
I'm right though, right? She dated, quote unquote.
She is
date.
a lady. Okay.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry.
I doubt she showed him any of her holes.
Too far.
Okay.
I took it too far.
In fact, these guys, she dated them. She didn't do them. She just dated them.
I don't know. I mean,
Clyde, just because I put out on a first date doesn't mean everybody does, okay? Some people like to date people and not do it. Not me, but some people.
I mean, I've never met anyone like that, but I'm sure it's out there.
In fact, when this thing is over, I'm going to do what Taylor Swift does and just no commitment, just Rosie on the field.
Dude, I'm going to like lock myself in the house and other than when I go pick up the kids, never leave.
And then every Saturday you do me.
Wait, what? We're still going to have that arrangement? Nice. I'm excited for this.
All right, Clyde. Well, it's been another fun day. Do you think you have anything interesting on Google search other than facts about the current world economy?
I actually stopped And how dare you bring up the current world economy? You owe me 25 cents.
I didn't say it.
It doesn't matter.
No,
You brought it up.
I did not say it.
You brought it up.
I
But
did not say it.
No, I've actually been listening to a few like serial killer podcasts. So I've actually been.
Is that why we've talked
Googling-
about some really scary stuff
Yes.
on this podcast? Because seriously,
Of course. So I've been Googling a lot of dark stuff that you're not going to want to talk about on here.
dude, I actually have your phone in my hand.
Yes, you do.
Why did you Google search who wrote Kung Fu Panda?
Because the kids were watching it today, and when it came up, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I thought it was the guy that sings King George in Hamilton. I think his name is like Jonathan Goff or Groff or something. I don't know. Anyways, out of the corner of my eye, it looked like it said that. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's so versatile. He's also in the show called Mindhunters, which is a great show on Netflix. Highly recommended, everybody.
Wow.
Anyways.
Why did you Google search Bombshell?
We rented that movie Bombshell not too long ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I watch one of those movies, I walk away going, how much of that was true? You know?
I hope not all of it, because it was kind of a scary movie.
Yeah. I mean, the guy it was
yes,
about
everybody,
was
I thought
kind
that
of a
movie was
creeper.
scary and it creeped me out.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's dealing with adult topics and dark themes, you know? It was a creepy story. But yeah, so I was definitely trying to get the scoop on like how much of it was real and stuff like that. I found out that Margot Robbie's character was not a real human.
Wow.
But rather based on multiple humans. So
Dude, I love that actress. I know she's fairly new.
Margot Robbie?
Yeah, but she's amazing. I think she's really fun.
She's pretty cool.
Right after that, you Googled biggest lizards.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Clyde Google biggest lizards?
Dude. Okay, we watched
in his pants.
We watched the show Inappropriate. Dude, that was offensive to me.
I don't know. Claudia just texted you, and so it made me think, because her text came up and I was like, this is what Claudia would say.
Thanks a lot, Claudia. Stop texting us while we're podcasting here. All right. So turns out, guys, there are other big lizards besides the Komodo dragon. Everyone knows about the Komodo dragon, right? Mm-hmm. We were watching a show about these monkeys, and turns out their number one predator is this honking lizard that's like the Komodo dragon, but a little bit smaller. And I was like, wait a minute.
Kind of quicker, too.
I know. I was like, you're telling me there's more than one Komodo dragon? This is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Or like giant lizard. So I Googled it. Turns out there's a whole bunch of them. So we're
kinda scary.
Yeah. Never leave North America. That's what I'm telling you. Never.
It gets weird in the jungle, people.
Yeah. Never go to Africa or the swampy parts of Asia. Right.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Next, you Googled, can people be allergic to the sun?
Yes. And the answer is yes.
Oh my gosh.
But no, when I was little,
is that those people who are like all white?
No, that's called albinoism.
Are they allergic to
No,
the
they're not allergic. They just don't have pigmentation. Oh my gosh, Rosie, I have to educate you. It's a good thing we have this segment before you go out in the world and say something offensive.
Oh my gosh.
You see like an albino,
you
you're
worry
like,
about me saying offensive things, Clyde.
like, I'm
you're the
sorry
most
that you're
offensive
allergic to the
person
sun.
I have ever met in my life.
Yeah, well,
I bet they get sunburned pretty easy.
yeah,
No
I'm sure they
pigment?
do. I'm sure they do. But no, when I was a little kid, there was this lady that used to walk around the neighborhood, and she would put on skiing goggles, and this would be in the middle of the summer. She'd put on skiing goggles, then she'd wear a hat, and then she'd wrap her face with a scarf, and she'd wear long sleeves and long pants.
Wow.
In the middle of the summer. And
It gets hot here in the summer.
Oh, yeah, and she'd be walking around. And I remember I one day was like, that lady scares me, you know, because I mean, I'm like little, I'm 5, 6, 7 years old. And my sister Chloe said, she can't help it. She's allergic to the sun. That stuck with me because I've never heard of another person be allergic to the sun. But later I brought that up to my mom, and turns out that lady had skin cancer. So she was just super cautious.
Wow.
But you can be allergic to the sun. There are some people, and it's very rare, their skin will like instantly blister if it gets sun rays or whatever. Which honestly, if we didn't have the atmosphere protecting us, did you know the sun would like kill us all instantly?
Really?
Yes, not to get dark again on
Seriously,
this topic.
Clyde. Okay, for not knowing who Taylor Swift is, why did you Google how tall is Taylor Swift?
I did not Google that.
Maybe somebody else got a hold of your phone today. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Were
you playing on my phone?
No. This also says, hit me, baby, one more time.
Oh, yeah.
That one was you?
Yeah. No, that was me. Because you know that song, I think it's by Salt and Peppa. It's like, baby, 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 baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Little Rosie loves that song.
Little Rosie loves that song, but only because James hates it. So that song, that little part, he doesn't even know how the whole song goes, that push it real good or whatever. I don't know. I feel like an idiot for even attempting that, but it's all good. It's I love my idiot. I'm allowed to be an idiot.
Yeah.
But James hates that song. And so one day I started singing it, just baby, baby. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm actually singing Britney Spears. Right? Because her song starts off with, oh, baby, baby, how was I supposed, or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, there was a time when Britney Spears was my dream girl.
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
saying.
Yeah.
That is not unique. Anyone who was between 9th grade and 12th grade, between the years of, like 98 to 2002, was obsessed with Britney Spears. I'm just saying.
I was never obsessed. But I listened to country music before.
Yeah, it wasn't about the music. I didn't like her music.
You also Googled a new replacement for brushing teeth. Not sure.
Yes. Apparently, I saw this on a commercial. There's this mouthpiece that you put in your mouth and it just vibrates. And these doctors are claiming that this should be the next upgrade from brushing teeth. According to the commercial, it's like we should have done this 100 years ago. But the technology wasn't out. But then I was reading a whole bunch of reviews because I was ready to order them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder, every 5 years we get a cavity or whatever.
Sure.
Right?
If I had this, I would never get a cavity again.
And that's what the thing was promising. It was like, you use this, you're going to be getting these hard to get places that toothbrush can't get. And then in my mind, I was like, does that mean we can finally quit flossing? But I read all these articles about how, it's too new, right? Sometimes you got to let things bake for 30 years before you really know if they work. Kind of like smoking. Remember, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but back in the 50s, people would say if you have a stuffed nose, you should smoke to clear up your sinuses.
Doctors smoked in hospitals.
Oh,
It was,
They're smoking on the surgery table and stuff like that.
That's crazy.
But yeah. And then it takes a good 50 years to be able to realize there's correlation between this smoking and all that, So I don't know. I kind of felt that way with the vaping too.
It's still too new.
I know it is. And I every now and then still hear people say oh, it's actually healthy for you. And I'm like, really? That's what they used to say about smoking cigarettes. What do you know?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think this is a good way to end the podcast with the last of your Google searches. There's 150 more because we haven't done this in a while. But you Googled old-fashioned ways to end a letter. All right, Clyde, give it to me. What are some old-fashioned ways to end a letter?
Your obedient servant. Now, the reason I was doing this is because I was deciding how I wanted to end my letters from now on in my emails. I just thought I need an old-fashioned way.
There's always the good old best regards.
Best regards. Best regards, I feel like you still see from time to time. And I wanted one that was very unique.
You don't really hear my best anymore, but that was a way people used to end letters. My best.
What I did is I settled on your humble servant, Mr. November, right? And so that is now my stock ending. But recently, I've actually changed it. I've changed it to one that I made up on my own.
Really?
Yes. You want to know what it is?
I'm dying to know.
So it goes, Mr. November.
Wow.
Do you know what "so it goes" means?
No.
It means that whatever crappy stuff happens, life goes on. And it just hit me. I was reading Slaughterhouse-Five, and he says that line, "so it goes," probably 50 million times in that book. Every time someone dies, he's like, "so it goes." Right? And so I just was like, oh my gosh, that's the perfect ending for a letter right now amidst all of this crap that's going on. Because it's like we're all dealing with crap, but so it goes. Life goes on. Signed, Mr. November.
All right. Well, Clyde, it's been another fun episode. Thank you so much for being my co-host on this.
Equal host.
Yes.
I see how you tried to slip that one past me.
This amazing podcast that we produce, write, and create together. It's a blessing to be a part of your world and a part of this with you.
I agree. Thank you, Rosie. We want to remind you that you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Don't forget, you can look at our website at ilovemyidiot.com.
Check us out on any platform and make sure you follow us on whichever one is your favorite.
And don't forget to tell your idiot that you love them.
I love you so much, Rosie.
I love you too, Clyde.
I love my idiot.
In fact, it made you cry, made me hate you as a man.
Hey. I cry every time I see that movie, okay?
Oh my gosh, seriously.
And now, I bring you an outtake from tonight's episode. I know, and I believe we've talked about this before, but my favorite holiday is Christmas, which is full of life and Jesus coming into the world.
Yes.
And Rosie's is Easter, which is dark and it's like Jesus dying and getting speared while he's on the cross. And
nuh-uh, he gets resurrected.
Oh, is that what the holiday's about? Apparently, I didn't get past the first chapter of that section. I don't know.
I love Easter. It's my favorite holiday. All of the Easter shenanigans. I've already got it all planned. I've already purchased all the things. Thank goodness I purchased it pre-world.
Pre what? Go ahead, say it.
I'm not going to be paying any money into this jar. I'm just telling you that. But yeah, no, I've been prepared for Easter since Christmas. Like, let's be real. I love this freaking holiday. So yeah, it's awesome.
I think you've actually been prepared since last Easter.
I know.
Rosie is one of those people that the second everything goes on sale, she goes and buys it for the next year. Then
another trick I learned from my mom.
Yeah, then I have the task of all year trying to hide these like little chick stuffed animals and bunny stuffed animals, you know. And I swear, this is how the children are going to realize, you know, I should just stop talking. I don't, you might have kids in the car. You guys get where I'm going though, right?